And we're back online with Dr. Day and his wonderful book, Southern Manifesto, Massive Resistance. Is it, the manifesto was kind of a high wire act for a lot of Southern members, those who weren't, who didn't breathe quite the fire that some of their colleagues did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fair?
Yes, though I've studied this over 12 years and looked at dozens and dozens of archives and political papers, and I have yet to find one elected official from the South that actually agreed with the Brown decision and actually endorsed the Brown decision. Even major politicians who received a lot of plaudits nationally for refusing to sign the Southern Manifesto, like Senator Gore and Majority Leader Johnson. In their constituent home mail, they really tried to dismiss and distance themselves from the Brown decision. And of course, those are two states that undergo significant amounts of desegregation right after Brown and Brown II in 1954 and 1956.
Mr. Gore didn't sign.
Yes.
Kefauver did. His colleague Kefauver, Tennessee, did not sign. LBJ didn't. Johnson had sort of an out.
Yes,
in a way that he, as majority leader, I can't.
That
Rayburn didn't sign.
He and Rayburn didn't sign. It was mostly in Texas. The Texas delegation, which was notoriously very close, which Sam Rayburn controlled pretty tightly. They actually split. Most of East Texas, most of the congressmen from East Texas signed. From West Texas, they did not sign. Now, Rayburn and Johnson, they argued that, of course, as national Democratic leaders, they could not sign something that was seen as a regional document or so forth. I'm eerily suspicious, or that Russell and Johnson planned that. Russell really wanted to push Johnson to be president, and he knew
Johnson wanted it too.
Yeah, Johnson wanted it too, a lot of historians, a lot of Johnson biographers say that the Southern Manifesto actually threatened Johnson's chances for a presidential nomination. I actually think that, conversely, it may have made Johnson more presidential timber than any other particular policy or document, because it automatically made him nationally acceptable, as well as a Southerner, and being from Texas, one of the largest electoral states, being a Southerner, as well as distancing himself from the Southern caucus. You see a lot of murmurings, and a lot of people start talking about Johnson's name in both 1956 and, of course, he runs for president in 1960. He runs as a favorite son in 1956 mostly to keep the Southern delegations in the convention, but it really helped his chances. I have a wise man, our mutual friend Randall Woods. He taught me one time that if you want to learn a lot about somebody, you look at their heroes. And I was looking at a lot of Richard Russell's correspondence and a lot of his personal writings, and his all-time favorite hero was Gladstone, the great,
British preem,
the great British preem, and I really think that if you see someone like Russell, and he kind of modeling himself on Gladstone's career, Gladstone's great objective was try to solve the Irish question and bring the Irish into the British Empire in the late 19th century. And I think that Russell, in much the same fashion, saw the South as trying to bring the South back into the nation in the 1950s and 60s, of course on his terms. And through segregation.
Well, he had plenty of Disraelis in Congress.
Yes, that's right.
As a matter of fact, I made a note. You wrote that Basically, well, here's one. Let's be moderate about this. That was the theme of some members of the Senate who negotiated over the language of the manifesto. You write, history demonstrates political moderation abjectly failed in the South, and also that the death of Jim Crow came largely on white Southern terms.
The Brown decision is decided in 1954. It's not until Holmes v. Virginia in 1969 that the federal government finally and conclusively says that Southern school districts cannot defy the desegregation orders any longer. That's 15 years. That's a generation of African Americans who were denied a first-rate public education in the South. The moderation allowed extremists to really take hold of the political debate. You see people like in Tennessee, or well, our greatest example is Brooks Hayes, who tried to unfortunately walk a fine line, like you said, walk a tightrope, walk a fine line, and we know where that got us in 1957.
Yeah.
He continually tries to, he signs the Southern Manifesto, which undercuts any support that he has really from the African American community in 1956 and 1957. Daisy Bates, you read the Arkansas State Press, and they widely condemn Hayes. Other African American intellectuals or political activists in the South, they very much are very dismayed that seeing Southern progressives like John Sparkman or Brooks Hayes really gained a lot of political capital by supporting the language and intent of the Southern Manifesto.
Sparkman went on the ticket in 56 with Attlee.
No, 52.
52.
Yeah, 52. Yeah, Kefauver was actually, he was put on the ticket, but of course he didn't sign the Southern Manifesto.
Right.
And in the fall election, he very much dismissed civil rights. There was a general consensus within the leading Democrats that they were not going to talk about that bill in 56 and 57. And in many respects, as I mentioned in my book, King, of course, famously articulates this idea about the inherent problems of Southern moderation, because he knew, much like Russell, and much like Fulbright, that moderation actually helps the status quo.
Preserve the status quo.
I got to interview Gilbert Fite, who was Richard Russell's principal biographer, excellent biography of Richard Russell. And Fite told me before he died, he said that during the debates over the 1957 Civil Rights Bill, that Russell was so mad at Strom Thurmond for that 24-hour filibuster, because he began that filibuster after he had negotiated the final version of the bill, and that for Russell, that made the South look so much, the Southern Caucus looked like a bunch of buffoons, and it essentially made illegitimate what they thought was a legal or principled stand for segregation. There was not much love lost between Thurmond and Russell.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned either the other senator from Arkansas at the time, Mr. McClellan,
yes,
who would write to his constituents, wait a minute, calm down. We're not going to forget the nullification stuff. It sounds good, but that's not going to go anywhere. But he had another approach to maintaining the status quo, and you talk about, and it was a federal bill to aid local school districts with construction money. Mr. McClellan had his own version.
Yeah, as I mentioned previously during our television interview, even before Brown, a lot of astute lawyers, McClellan or Fulbright, or a lot of lawyers throughout the Southern congressional delegation, I think they could see the writing on the wall and the way the precedent was going in the late 1950s, which you have going all the way back to Gaines v. Missouri in 1938, which desegregated professional schools throughout the South. They saw a way of preventing meaningful desegregation largely through federal aid to education. McClellan sponsors what becomes known as the Kelly Bill, which is a massive federal appropriation for education schools, and largely in the poorest districts, which means largely southern districts. And it was introduced in the early 1950s. And McClellan got a lot of wide bipartisan support for this appropriation bill. If it would have got through, it could have arguably have preempted Brown and could have shored up the disparity between, or maybe a veneer of disparity between white and black schools, and would have given the Southern Congressional Delegation a lot more ammunition in saying that, look, no, we do have separate but equal. So, yeah, the Southern Manifesto was the most most blatant strategy, but they had other irons in the fire to try and to prevent desegregation.
And with that, Dr. Day, we do have to end. We are out of time. Thank you very much again for your time and for the book again.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this time.
Thank you for being with us. I'll see you next time.
This program is made possible in part by the Moving Image Trust Fund.